to the morning meeting with Mark and Sean and Dan. If you should think of a question, all you do is raise your hand. With the presumption of grace to all, peace, love, and understanding during the call. Welcome to the morning meeting where the best politics is at, with conversations like no other, but don't put smack in the chat.
Those of you watching, or listening rather, to the podcast version missed out. Dan, tell them what they didn't see.
Well, it's three dancing babies that I guess us, 40, 50, 60 years ago, and handsome, good looking, and ready to go.
I got to say, the AI captured what I looked like as a baby. I don't know about you guys.
I didn't have glasses as a kid.
Really
No,
good.
You didn't?
Nope.
All right.
I gotta say, best video open. I'm not there on the audio. Best video open though.
Yeah, pretty good. If you only listen to it on the podcast, I recommend you go to the YouTube version. You're going to want to see that. Welcome to the morning meeting with the adult versions of Sean and Dan and myself. Thank you for being part of the two-way experience. This is the program for October 7th, 2025. Commemorations around the world for the horrible massacre that took place in Israel 2 years ago. We'll talk about that. Shutdown continues. And we'd love your participation to talk about that and anything else on your mind. So if you're here on the two-way platform, you want to be in on the conversation, we'd urge you to raise your hand. We'd love to get 3 new people in today. Let's try for that. If you've never raised your hand before, I see plenty of new people I've never seen before. Welcome in. Thank you for being part of this. Raise your hand. If you're watching on X or on YouTube, remember, this is based on the television network news division's morning meetings like they have over at CBS, where Barry Weiss on Monday will take over. Don't put smack.
Monday, huh? No, not today.
Monday. I think it's Monday.
I would want a few days to get ready.
Yeah.
If I got 100, you got to spend a little of that 150 million.
Yeah, it's not all going to her. Don't put smack in the chat. Peace, love, and understanding to all. Remember, this is a different kind of platform. We have people on with all sorts of views, and if you hear something you don't like, rather than being furious and sending me a nasty email saying you'll never listen again because someone spoke and said something you didn't agree with, maybe thank me. Maybe say, I learned something new today. I learned something that tens of millions of Americans agree with that I don't, but now I've heard it and had it kind of laid out with Dan and Sean. So that's what I'd recommend you do. I'm tired of answering those emails. This platform is for everybody. Welcome in. Dan, all dressed up, not wearing fairway and green this morning. And I'm not either, because for a variety of reasons. But Sean, tell them what you're wearing and why.
Well, Mark, I'm wearing one of the lovely polos from Fairway and Green. But as I've said before, all products on Fairway and Green, every one of them on the site-wide, is available at our 20% discount by going to twoway.tv/fairway. Two-way 20 being your key discount there. And today I'm wearing a non-branded shirt, just one of the beautiful polos that they happen to put in that box. So I was just excited. And again, it's just more proof that you should get a morning meeting shirt to show your support. But if a holiday's coming up that you want to share a Fairway and Green shirt with someone, you're not limited. That's the beauty of this. Yeah. You can get any item.
I'll tell you one more thing you can buy. We haven't talked about it yet. Literally, they're the best boxers I've ever owned. I've replaced all my underwear with Fairway and Green boxers. Dan, you don't know about this, do you? They're incredible.
No, but I do wear underwear. So
they're literally the best boxers I've ever owned. So take a look at that.
We talk about the shutdown, please.
Yeah, let's go to it. Here's the day book for you. The President of the United States is at the White House today and will be spending much of his day with my college classmate, Mark Carney, Prime Minister of Canada. He greets him at 11:30.
You guys still text?
I can't comment. Greets him at the stakeout at 11:30, 11:45. White House pool covers a bilat. They'll talk about all manner of things. May talk about kids in the hall, may talk about Second City, may talk about Fred Willard. You just don't know what will come up. Fox News this morning spotted the PM taking a morning jog, I think on the mall, because he's already in town. In any event, photo op at 11:45, then a closed lunch in the cabinet room, 12:15, and then at 3 o'clock, the president's meeting, closed press, at least for now, with Eden Alexander, one of the Americans who was held hostage by
the way, do you think it's a coincidence that Canada's here on the day the NHL season opens today?
No. Yes, it is.
Okay.
All right. JD Vance presumably will be around that meeting today. Excuse me. Pam Bondi, who has a trail of controversies. I didn't realize how long the list of controversies was, but somebody in a curtain-raising piece this morning listed all the things that have come up on her watch that have caused consternation, not just for Democrats, but often for Republicans. Her first testimony as AG on Capitol Hill today, 9 a.m. At this hour, as they say. We may dip into that before Senate Judiciary. House remains out. Senate is going to vote on some nominations. And then at some point, another test vote, but no one expects them to break cloture to open the government back
They
up.
may lose a vote.
Yeah. They lost one yesterday, right? Angus King went.
No, he did not. No, but he's
said
threatening
right.
to today.
Threatening to. Okay.
Right. By the
Okay,
way,
no.
at what point do we start having a serious conversation about, what they refer to as the nuclear option?
No interest. Thune's not
I
interested.
know, but that's my point. Why there is sort of right. Why are we not talking about that?
Thune just thinks he
Because
says
someday you'll be in the minority. That's
he's
why.
from the he's from the McConnell School. Speaker of the House press conference at 10. The votes on the resolutions are supposed to be this evening, and then the House Democrats are meeting again, angry that they're not in session, but they'll meet again at 6 o'clock tonight. Supreme Court hears arguments in a couple cases at 10 o'clock, a Colorado ban on conversion therapy for LGBTQ people, and at 11, a case on double jeopardy. In Egypt, Jared Kushner, Steve Witkoff continue to be part of ceasefire talks. Not a lot of coming out of what's happening in the talks, so it's a little bit of a black box there.
Which is probably a good sign, to be honest, that there is nothing coming out.
Almost always it's a good sign.
Yep.
I agree. All right. Again, if you want to be in on the conversation, particularly if you've never raised your hand on this program before, please do. We'll get to you in just a bit. We got some topics to race through, though. Ladies and gentlemen, here we go. The president yesterday confused the world, saying there were talks with the Democrats. Then the Democrats said there weren't. Then the president suggested talks could occur before the shutdown was over. Then he went on social and said, no, there has to be an agreement to open the government before there could be talks. And so that, I think, is sound and fury signifying nothing, really. But here's what is happening. The air traffic controllers in a few airports weren't in full force, and Burbank in particular mostly shut down. And that, along with the paychecks, here's the New York Times headline: flight delays begin as air traffic staffing shortages worsen. This air traffic issue and then the paychecks that are going to start to be snagged seem to be, if there's any forcing mechanisms out there, that might be it. Here is Sean Duffy, Secretary of Transportation, former reality show star and Wisconsin congressman, on Fox and Friends, where his wife is the weekend host.
So the controllers yesterday were saying, we actually have to think about working 6 days a week, and then do I go out and take an Uber job and try to make extra money to put the food on the table? All because Chuck Schumer is trying to have this political fight instead of saying, let's do a clean CR, let's open the government up, let's have a conversation about what Democrats want to talk about, but do that over the course of the next several months. Don't shut it down and affect our airspace, our controllers. Again, it's a huge problem. And again, Burbank, 0 controllers came to work. I don't support that. They should come to work. They're supposed to come to work. But they didn't miss a paycheck yet. So why aren't they coming to work? I mean, it's only been 6 days. So, well, the paycheck, the pay cycle ended yesterday, right? Their paychecks come next week, and they see what's on the horizon, Brian. Here's Bernie Sanders being relatively optimistic last night on CNN about where things stand. 105, please.
You want to throw 15 million people off the health care that they have. You're going to destroy a broken healthcare system. We may not be able to recover from that. I think Trump understands that. The Republicans understand that. And I wish that the Speaker of the House, Mr. Johnson, had not given his members a vacation, taking them out of Washington. In the middle of this crisis, they're not here. That's pretty pathetic.
All right, but perhaps the most significant development that might lead to some sort of solution comes from, perhaps a surprising quarter, the gentlelady from Georgia. Marjorie Taylor Greene took to Twitter, aka X, to express some mixed sentiments about everything that's going on. I shall read this in full, including the barnyard profanity for verisimilitude. Here we go, everybody. Marjorie Taylor Greene tweet: I was not in Congress when all this Obamacare Affordable Care Act bullshit started. I got here in 2021. As a matter of fact, the ACA made health insurance unaffordable for my family after it was passed, with skyrocketing premiums higher than our house payment. Let's just say as nicely as possible, I'm not a fan. But I'm going to go against everyone on this issue because when the tax credits expire this year, my own adult children's insurance premiums for 2026 are going to double, along with all the wonderful families and hardworking people in my district. No, I'm not towing the party line on this or playing loyalty games. I'm a Republican and won't vote for illegals to have any taxpayer-funded healthcare or benefits. I'm America only. I'm carving my own lane. Dan, this puts in sharp relief what Democrats have been saying, which is a lot of red families are not going to like the Republican position. And the Democratic Party, ironically, is kind of trying to help bail them out.
That's exactly right. Those tax credits were designed for red states that did not expand Medicaid under Obamacare. So the party worked with Republicans to backdoor subsidies to them under the radar so that they could continue to rail against how much they hate Obamacare, but get their citizens health care. Donald Trump knows this, which is why yesterday was one of the great Trumpian days of the little wheel in his head said, we got to actually do something on this. Then his own leaders called and said, no, that's not our position. So he backtracked. And I thought the greatest line of the day was Rahm Emanuel. God bless Rahm. We all talk about how smart he is. We talk about his understanding of sound bites. He said, because we haven't talked about it here, you found 20 billion for Argentina in a shutdown, but you can't find money for healthcare. It's a great sound bite.
It's reminiscent of we should stop building firehouses in
Baghdad and build them in Ohio. Yep.
Canary in the coal mine.
I'm a little confused by this. So first of all, I don't think it's great to start an argument by saying the only reason I care is because my adult children's premiums are going up. It's either good policy or bad policy. Saying that.
Well, she said her constituents too.
I know, but if you lead with my own adult children's premiums are going to double.
All politics is local.
Yeah, very local. But I still don't understand her point here. She doesn't want to vote for illegals. The sequencing has always been the issue, which is open the government up, then we have the conversation. So that's completely consistent with the Republican policy right now. Number two is I agree with her on a second point, which is the system is broken, and we are just basically doubling down on a broken Obama system, which is horrible. The Republican Party should be leading on healthcare reform. We've had years and years to do this, to talk about it, and we still have nothing. That is horrible for our party that we don't have that. But I will say that just saying, well, because it sucks, I want to open it up and double down on stupid, to me isn't a great strategy and really just continues to flush good money after bad. There are serious problems with just a plain out extension of the ACA. So there should be a serious negotiation about the waste, the fraud, the inefficiencies that exist, the hospitals that are getting reimbursements that don't need it. I mean, this is this was a COVID thing. We're just throwing money at a problem.
Somebody would have to lead the way on that. I think the significant of the Marjorie Taylor Greene tweet is this. It's the mirror image of Democrats on crime. When the Democrats are talking about crime, they're like, yeah, maybe crime's a problem, but the real issue is Trump's overreaching and we don't want the National Guard. And the Republicans are saying, yeah, maybe there's some issue with healthcare Democrats want to deal with, but illegal aliens. Like if you think, as Marjorie Taylor Greene does, that this is something that needs to be addressed because people's premiums are going to go up, Speaker Johnson should be screaming from the rooftops, as should the president. We're determined to make sure people's premiums don't go up. You either believe that or you don't. Marjorie Taylor Greene saying she believes it. Does the president, did Speaker Johnson, do they want people's premiums to double? I don't know.
Trump does.
No, and that's why I'm saying I think it's a shame.
But he's not saying it. He's not saying it.
No. I 100% agree. I think the problem is that we are actually setting ourselves up for failure, which is open the government, then we'll talk about it. We should be messaging at the same point right now. Here's what we'll do about it, because it is a broken, flawed system. And
but you don't have a replacement. So
that's what I'm agreed.
Right. So
100%.
you got to deal in reality, the world as it is. And
yes.
You're not going to come up with one in the next 2 months.
No. And 100% you're absolutely right.
This is the plan. And by the way, this is what we plan to run on in 2026. And seeing cracks emerge now tells the party there's something there.
So this to me is like the appropriations process. We see the problem and we go, wow, there's a massive problem. Let's wait and deal with it in months. We have been talking about healthcare for 10 years, probably 15 as a party. And here we are again, knowing that this is going to be right around the corner. If in fact we open the government up, we give ourselves a 7 week window, and we have no unified solution.
All right,
This is a problem.
last night, Botcha said predicting the end of the shutdown in terms of timing and method was a boy thing. I'm not sure she's right, but let's do the boy thing. Dan, when and how does it end?
I mean, I still think it's the solution's obvious. I think it's sometime now. I'll say next week, because we're going to get near the pay period, and there will be a deal on the Obama tax credits.
But who's in the room, either physically or metaphorically, to strike the deal?
Well, I forget who it was who was on 2A Tonight the other day, who worked for Pelosi and whatever, who mentioned JD Vance. I hadn't thought of that. So, and I know you've talked about it ever since. Maybe it's JD Vance and Schumer.
Okay, I've got a new answer. Sean?
Okay.
I mean, I maintain what I've said all along. I think that we agree on a shorter term reopening of the government, a guaranteed vote on ACA extension once it's reopened.
Yeah.
Get 5 or 6, and that was one of the things. By
But
the way,
who makes the deal?
So I think that right now JD gets in the room, we make it, and this is where I think the problem, the when the president was talking about Democrats, what I thought wasn't necessarily talking about Hakeem Jeffries or Schumer. I think they're trying to break a deal with 4 or 5 of those other Democrats in the Senate and say, hey, if you agree with us, so it's JD, it's probably, Gary Peters and Maggie Hassan or a couple of those guys, and saying, if you do this, we'll give you a vote on X. Susan Collins.
Yep. Early next week, and it's Johnson and a Senate gang who do the deal. Johnson and a Senate gang, bipartisan Senate gang.
It's my gang. So look, Olympia Snow.
Yeah.
Sorry, Susan Collins.
Yeah, you're dating yourself.
Gary Peters. Gary Peters.
Margaret Chase Smith.
Yes.
All right, guys, we got to pick up the pace. That's one topic, and we used half our time. So let's pick up the pace. Here we go. Trump in the States, still waiting to see what happens with the suits in Oregon. The Court of Appeals, as far as I know, still hasn't taken it up. The judge in Chicago stayed the objection of Illinois while waiting for, I think, a Thursday argument. So that
I think it's today.
operation, I think it's Thursday. Pretty sure it's Thursday. In any event, here's a map from the Washington Post, 107, of National Guard deployments in place and coming. You see there Portland, LA, Memphis, Chicago, DC, 3 locations in Louisiana. Let's just talk about the politics of this. Democrats are suddenly big 10th Amendment people, big states' rights people, rather. Sean, today, as a snapshot, just binary, who's winning politically this fight? The White House or the Democrats? Politically, who's winning today?
I think it's a push. I think the Democrats are getting what they want out of it, and the Republicans are getting what they want.
Sean? Correct. Dan, Sean's right. What do you think?
I think Republicans were winning it. I think Democrats are now. I think it's overreach.
Yeah. Okay, that could be true too. All right, moving quickly here. Israel, again, second anniversary. The talks are a black box, not a lot coming out, which we agree is a good sign. Will Israel around this? Here's a CNN headline: Gaza ceasefire talks underway as Israel marks anniversary of October 7th attack. Will Israel around the discussions about a deal, whether there is a deal or not? Is this got a good chance? How good a chance does this have, Dan, to improve Israel's PR standing with the world?
Well, it has a chance if there's a real deal and the people of Gaza are allowed to ultimately return and something is built and there's a sense that the Palestinians are being treated humanely, let's say, then I think Israel if Israel is seen as playing a constructive role, I think it could help. Although there's so much damage, it would take a while.
Sean?
I think Israel gets a participation trophy on this. To Dan's point, they were there. They didn't lead the way on this. This is President Trump and his team leading the way. Israel, I don't think, gets a lot of credit for solving this. And to your point about PR, they're not doing much to improve their standing or their image. They're just going along with the process, and that's a problem.
All right. It was reported yesterday by Senator Grassley and others that Jack Smith pulled the metadata of 7 Republican senators and 1 Republican House member around the activities around January 6th. And Here's the Politico headline: Biden era FBI requested Senate Republican phone records, lawmakers say. So this came out on the eve of Pam Bondi's testimony. It's sure to come up before the Judiciary Committee, and some cynics would say they've known this for a while, but they put it out now so the Republicans would have something to talk about at the hearing besides Epstein and some other controversies around Pam Bondi. Members of Congress get investigated all the time. I'm no defender of the deep state, and I don't know the facts here, but just the notion that a member of Congress was investigated is being treated by the Reds as some unprecedented act of violation of separation of powers. Sean, again, I'm not defending Jack Smith and every investigative decision he made, but a priori, there's nothing wrong with a special counsel investigating members of Congress, is there?
I think in general, of course, there's nothing wrong with investigating members of Congress. When you look at the list and say, like, why is Dan Sullivan? Why is Marsha Black? I mean, like, what did they do to necessitate anything? They weren't leading this effort. So to suddenly be tapping their phones,
They didn't tap their phones.
They pulled their metadata.
They pulled the metadata.
But my point is, I think there is a problem. You have a separation of powers, and if there's not a reason, these guys weren't involved in the planning or orchestration of any kind of events. So
we don't know.
We don't know. I
That
mean,
was the whole point.
You don't know. But I mean, they needed probable cause for that. I mean, again, I'm not. I don't know the facts, and neither did any of us. But I mean, the Justice Department's investigating Senator Adam Schiff. William Jefferson was investigated. Tons of members of the House have been investigated by the Justice Department. This could be an egregious abuse of power, but I'll say again, it's not just on the face of it an abuse of power for an independent counsel or the Justice Department to investigate a member of Congress. Dan, correct?
Well, yeah, and I want to add that the report is that he was looking at them over the fake electors scheme. We have to start with the fact that that was batshit crazy. They tried to literally run fake electors to overturn an election. Full stop. So they were checking out to see who might have been complying with that. This wasn't like, I mean, it's history on that issue is going to be so unkind. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Look, I knowing the people that are listed on that, there are some serious questions that need to be answered. And I think that it is concerning.
Again, I'm not saying it's not concerning, and I'm not saying I know the facts, and I'm against abuse of power. And for all I know, this is deep state run amok. I don't know. All I'm saying is you can't just assume that there was done inappropriately. Let there be an investigation and figure it out. You can't.
Well, we are a country where you're innocent until proven guilty. So
I know, but John, just because they pull your med, they didn't indict.
I
They
think
didn't
Lisa
indict
Cook
them.
and some others would have a question
again,
about
these
that.
They didn't indict them.
people.
They just
There is-
well, but they didn't. They
for
didn't
the
pull the
executive
They
branch.
aren't random. They pulled the metadata of people who presumably they suspected, or at least potentially they suspected. They didn't pull the metadata of every Republican. They chose some. Presumably, they had some theory of the case. I'm not giving them the benefit of the doubt because I never give prosecutors the benefit of the doubt. All I'm saying is I want more facts about it, and I hope they investigate it thoroughly. And if people violated their rights, I hope they're prosecuted. To the
Well,
fullest
considering
extent
the
that they
track
can.
record, that's the one last thing. I don't think the Biden DOJ, the Biden FBI, has a strong track record
as compared to this DOJ.
I mean, I'll say this: Joe Biden, when he pressured Merrick Garland, he told him to go F off, and nothing happened. Yeah.
Merrick Garland allowed Jack Smith to say, I'm going to prosecute Trump in the election year, and not say it explicitly, but I'm going to do everything I can to get him prosecuted, indicted before the election, and to trial before the election. And Merrick Garland stood by and did nothing about it.
He was investigating the attempt to overturn an election.
He was, but he timed it to try to keep Trump from winning.
No, that's not true. That is.
Oh, it's 100% true. It's 100% true. It's
that
unambiguous.
They tried to wrap it up before the election to render a verdict.
Oh, they didn't want
Yeah, they did.
Okay, but you could read that two different ways, which is had they come out a month after the election.
No, because
WTF.
but of course, but if you're an honest prosecutor, you do it based on the normal standards and the rights of the accused. And you don't try to rush it. Trump had rights as Trump. You could see it different ways in terms of that one calculus, which is what's right for the electorate. But you also have to take into account the rights of the accused. Trump was an accused citizen, And the prosecutor broke every rule to say, I'm going to try to get the judge to agree to this trial, not under the normal schedule. Not under the normal schedule. In the Florida case, no, Dan, in the Florida case, there was gray mail involved. That case would have taken, in normal circumstances, years to reach trial.
But Mark, was the Trump strategy to try to? I mean, that they designed.
Of course it was. Of course it. Of course it was.
This issue.
Of
this
course it was.
What their whole game plan was.
Of course it was. But he's accused. He's not the government. The accused has better rights than the government when you're trying to send someone to prison. All right. We're
great legal strategy. I tip my hat to the Trump.
Supposed to be forward-looking. My fault. All right. Yesterday, Donald Trump asked repeatedly by Caitlin Collins about pardoning Maxwell. Basically said over and over again, "Yeah, I might pardon Maxwell." We got to play it because it's bonkers. If you haven't seen it, you read this and say, if you think Donald Trump is considering pardoning Maxwell, roll the confession.
Say it. The Supreme Court is back, and they rejected today an appeal by Ghislaine Maxwell to overturn her conviction. That means her only chance of getting out of prison is a pardon from you. Is that something you're?
Who are we talking about?
Ghislaine Maxwell.
You know, I haven't heard the name in so long. I can say this, that I'd have to take a look at it. I would have to take a look. Did they reject that?
She wanted to appeal her conviction.
And what happened?
They said that they were not going to hear her appeal.
I see. Well, I'll take a look at it. I will speak to the DOJ. I wouldn't consider it or not consider it. I don't know anything about it. So, but I will speak to the DOJ.
Why would she be a candidate for clemency, sir?
I don't know. I mean, I'd have to speak to the DOJ. I'll look at it. I have a lot of people who have asked me for pardons. I call him Puff Daddy has asked me for a pardon.
But she was convicted of child sex trafficking.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to have to take a look at it. I'd have to ask DOJ. I didn't know they rejected it. I didn't know she was even asking for it, frankly.
Okay, Sean, I'll play Caitlin Collins. You play Donald Trump. Ready? Here we go. Hey, President Trump, thank you for calling on me. CNN's Caitlin Collins here. Would you consider pardoning Ghislaine Maxwell?
You know, Caitlin, I'm so tired of the fake news. CNN's fake news. You're a bad reporter. In fact, you're a horrible reporter, and you know it. And okay, I don't even know why you're here, Caitlin.
Okay. Hi, what's the name of that guy Trump loves to call on?
Brian Glenn.
Brian Glenn. Hey, Mr. President, Brian Glenn, thank you for calling on me for the 18th time. Would you consider pardoning Ghislaine Maxwell?
Brian, I just want to say, first of all, thank you for calling attention to
Sean,
the tent outside. I did get rid of the blue tent.
Yeah.
I don't know who he is.
Okay. Why is Donald Trump not just saying, of course I wouldn't pardon her?
So here's the way I look at a lot of things that Trump says. When he's caught off guard with an issue or a topic, he will sort of just
keep his options open.
Look on it, whatever. But that to me, and it's like everybody yesterday, what was the other thing that he said that everyone freaked out about with federal employees? If it's one thing for him to make a declaratory statement at the top of something in script, when he's responding to a question, a lot of times it's that playful banter, and I don't put that in the same category. So yesterday was, I'm going to look at it. I don't know. I mean, listen to what he said over and over. I don't know anything about it. Did this just happen? So he's kind of doing it in the moment. That means nothing. Okay.
Dan, in the spirit of the McNeil-Lair News Hour, they used to always ask questions of the second guest. They did like this. Dan, is that how you see it?
What do you call it? What does Trump call it? The bob and the weave? The weave. That may be Exhibit A.
Yeah. So, Dan, would you say you put the odds of Trump pardons or commutes her sentence at above 50%?
Yes.
Yes.
And okay. I'm waiting for a big event, whether it's a peace deal or something, and at like 11:59 p.m. they're going to do it and try to.
The one thing I'll say is that aside from everything else that I think about this, just on the consistency of what he has said, where he has said over and over again, why is everyone talking about Epstein? He's a loser. This is a Democratic hoax. The bottom line is he will have a trouble. His own folks are going to tell him, if you were to pardon her for whatever reason, who knows? I don't understand what that would be. That will inject it back again. You can't say it's a hoax anymore because now you pardoned her.
Right.
Well, by the way, one of the reasons that people think that this House is staying out is when they come back, they have the vote for the discharge position.
By the way, I still don't. What I don't get is, okay, so the ones with the Gavala, once she gets sworn in, she signs a petition, they get to 18, then all they do is tell DOJ, send us what you have. DOJ's
Well,
already
they don't even do that because it's not going to pass the Senate.
right. This is,
Nothing
me,
happens.
I find this
Yeah.
whole thing so silly because it's going nowhere.
This morning, Tim Kaine was asked by Manu Raju about the attorney general candidate, and he said, what he said was not acceptable, but I've known him a long time. This was out of character, did not unendorse, did not urge him to step down. And this continues to be a story not particularly covered by the media, including in Virginia. Sean's criticism of the incumbent Republican AG's campaign for not getting a video out on Sunday was met yesterday by putting 2 videos out. They were pretty good, I thought, and driving the issue. So, guys, just one question on this. Sean, first, early voting's underway. So getting him off the ballot is super complicated, and it doesn't seem like Democrats want him off the ballot. So, Sean, will anyone, any statewide elected official or candidate call for him to get out of the race?
Well, just to be clear, when you say statewide, because every constitutional office in Virginia,
or the 2 senators, the 2 U.S. senators.
Oh, no, absolutely not. But I will say this: there's 2 things that are happening right now. So one, there are more comments that are coming out unearthed where Jay Jones is talking
alleged.
Well, no, they're coming out. Whether or not that's
there's some that have been alleged that are not
right. But I mean,
not documented.
Okay. But talking about how he wants police to be shot. Maybe if a few died, that we could move on. That's alleged.
Yeah, it's alleged. I don't think that's documented.
And then there is the other incident of him doing his community service by working for his own PAC. I think that he is a house of cards about to collapse. Yeah. And here's the problem for Democrats. I don't think that Kaine. I mean, first of all, no one really cares what Kaine or Warner. I mean, honestly, I just don't think
Manu Raju did.
But yeah. But my point is, until Abigail Spermberger does anything, it's not going to matter. Yeah. And look, this guy is the Terry McAuliffe of this cycle. He is a weight on them right now. When Virginia reelects all 3 of these folks, they will thank Jay Jones for doing this. He is the anchor that is taking the entire Democratic ticket.
Dan, if you were the DNC chair and asked about this, what would you say?
I think you look at the 2 state senators. I mean, when something like this happens, you look at your own coalition and you say, do members of the coalition agree that he should step down? Very few candidates will go against all the components of their coalition. Coalition members are not calling for him to step down. Therefore, I think what you're going to hear is they're going to condemn it, but they're not going to call. And I think Democrats, I wouldn't say it's about to collapse. He is collapsing. And I think they're just going to look past it and try to get Spanberger through.
Right. All right.
One last point, if I can, Mark. For 2-3 weeks, we heard about both sides have violence. Both sides need to take the temperature down. Here was the Democrats' opportunity to denounce this thoroughly. They chose not to. Yesterday, J.B. Pritzker said that he wants Noam's thugs to get out of Illinois, the thugs being federal agents. Here we go again. Once Charlie Kirk's memory is in the rearview mirror long enough, the Democrats are back to the same old rhetoric that's causing this problem to begin with. So the both sides story is completely BS. The bottom line is one side excuses it, one side doesn't.
All right, Dan, go ahead.
Find that ridiculous. This was 4 years ago. I mean, this is different.
4 years ago, it didn't matter.
It's ridiculous.
Assassinate people 4 years ago.
All right. Lastly,
I mean, Donald Trump said, let's kick the crap out of someone in a rally. Like, that was 10 years ago. If you want to keep going, let's play the game. Come on. It's ridiculous.
Right. One of the mysteries of 2028 to me is why Governor Shapiro of Pennsylvania is not being talked about as an A-level candidate. I have some guesses as to why, but here's a new ad he did on behalf of some state Supreme Court justice. The state Supreme Court in Pennsylvania is up for grabs, so this is a big high-stakes election. Here's a new ad that Governor Shapiro cut on behalf of the liberals on the court.
Here in Pennsylvania, the threats to our freedoms are very real. That's why we need to keep our state Supreme Court standing up for what's right. I hope you'll join me in voting yes to retain Justices Donahue, Doherty, and Wecht. They've proven we can count on them to protect a woman's access to abortion and birth control and stand up for all our freedoms. Vote yes for a Supreme Court that protects us.
All right, guys, two questions for each of you, quick answers. Dan, how do you rate his perf in that ad?
Vanilla.
Vanilla.
Just very, very vanilla.
Sean?
Concur.
Okay. Dan, give me the main reason why he's not talked about as a top tier candidate.
His personality and style is just not a fit for this moment right now. It's just not. He's so cautious and he's so go along to get along. And then you see Trump and Stephen Miller, and you just think he's mincemeat.
Sean?
Yeah, we're concur again. I mean, that was just.
It's just weird. It's just so.
I mean,
so
first
vanilla.
Of all, show some passion, care about it. I mean, that was the lamest ad I've ever seen.
Okay.
Honestly, I felt like, get out there and fight. Be like, we're under attack. Donald Trump is doing. I could have written a better ad for the guy.
Well, but his problem is he can't, because his appeal is the MAGA voters like him. So if you go after Trump and Trump is terrible and like you get intense, then he loses some of that appeal. And so it's just like, Mark, we talked about in 2024 when he was being attacked in the VP vetting, and he just took it.
Yeah.
He didn't do anything.
Yeah. Dylan, can you unmute? I've asked you repeatedly, and there you go. Dylan, welcome in. Thank you for being part of the two-way experience. Grateful to have you here. Tell folks who know where you are and what's on your mind for Dan and Sean.
Hey, good morning, gents. And I am in Virginia, Northern Virginia, so very closely monitoring the election news, obviously. But you guys kind of covered it. I had a couple of questions I was going to ask, and that was one of them. So we'll move on to the next one. So this is mostly for Dan. So I don't know if it was Monday or Friday, but Hegseth got brought up again, Secretary Hegseth, and you had mentioned that you think that history is going to look unkindly on him. You've used some other colorful language as well to describe him. And I just kind of wanted to kind of I guess maybe understand, one, why you think that, and then kind of put into perspective how I think all secretaries of defense previously, now secretaries of war, are kind of measured, which isn't really about the person themselves, but what happens under the administration while they're overseeing the military. And so my counter to you would be retention is the highest it's been in, I think, 6 years. Recruiting is the highest it's been in over 4 years. And, barring some insane global conflict that we get involved in and we just absolutely, fail to meet the moment, I guess I'm a little curious why you think that historically he's going to be considered such a troublesome or failure, leader of the military, given all of the data we have today. And there's a lot of time, I recognize, but
yeah, Dan.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. Great kind of counterpoint to what you're saying. And that's real. And that's, by the way, that's great for the U.S. military, that retention and recruitment are up. It's something we've struggled with for the last several years, particularly coming out of the Biden era. So you're right. And I'm not sure, how much of that is him versus Trump, like the inspiration of Trump and Trump having your back. I think the counter to that would be at the leadership level, there is a huge churn. Some of it is people he's brought in, then he's moved out. He seems to be moving people out, not because of performance, but some of it is insecurity. Some of it is this focus on, he says, oh, they're DEI, they're, and the facts seem to show that these are incredibly accomplished people. The other thing is, in my opinion, he's kind of like a YouTube influencer secretary, which is there's so much performative kind of machismo rah-rah. And I think that thing last week was like the ultimate example of this, that to me, he doesn't come across as sober and serious to lead our military. You ended your statement by saying, if there's a conflict, fingers crossed that all were to go well. But the incredible churn at the leadership level, and like half of these are people he brought in, that does not speak well of one as a leader.
Dylan, any follow?
Yeah, no, I mean, so I kind of, that was the start of my statement, right? Is I think personality wise, very different.
Yep.
He was selected because he's different. I think that was made very clear.
Yep.
And a very early point that the administration wanted to make was that they had seen this negative correlation between the number of senior leaders in the department and the overall effectiveness and readiness of the warfighting capability of the military, right? So I do.
You don't think the military was ready?
Say that again.
You think the military's war fighting capability had been severely weakened?
Well, I mean that's not my opinion. That's the actual readiness, results
Well,
from
that's the Trump
inspections and
talk.
studies.
Okay.
So, I mean, the Navy, I think for that, and Sean, no apologies here because as an Air Force guy, I can't root for the Navy, but the Navy has failed to meet like every readiness measure for about a decade, right? And it's not just them; it's other services too. So, I think the point was we're trying to find a new way to tackle some of these challenges. And again, it remains to be seen if it's going to be effective. I just was more so, I think that it's less about the personality and again, more about the results. And I think so far in the last, 9.5 months, the results kind of speak for themselves in terms of the data we have, I guess, would be my counterpoint.
Yeah, they're good points.
Yeah. Dylan, thank you. Grateful to you. Thanks for coming on.
Dylan, by the way, the Air Force is a completely acceptable alternative to serving in the military. I think I appreciate your serving the country in that way.
Nothing I like more than jibes between people from different branches of the service than press release wars between the comms directors of the DCCC and the NRCC. Very comparable in their ritual, tribal, juvenile behavior. Kyle, welcome in. Thank you for being part of Two Way.
Yeah, morning, gentlemen. I'm from live in Southeast Alabama, originally from Shreveport, Louisiana. Which
Kyle,
I saw got a big shout out on the National Guard tab.
Kyle, what's that thing on the wall?
That's a tonal. That's
let's go, baby.
Yeah,
best thing I've ever bought. I can't recommend it enough.
That's handsome. Did you mount it yourself?
They won't let you. If you want to keep your warranty, they have to come do it.
Got it. All right. Well, that's a beautiful piece of equipment.
Yeah, it's expensive, so it should be. But no, two quick things on my side. Mark, you've made me hyper aware about why the news doesn't cover certain stories. And I was curious if y'all have seen the Kyron Lacey story that's kind of bubbled up here over the weekend, which is the LSU wide receiver from last year. He was a top 10 pick projected. In December of 2024, he was charged with negligent homicide, a felony style hit and run, and a reckless driving charge of sorts. He was canceled, obviously, and then in April, he actually sadly committed suicide because of the pressure from the negative press and everything. And this weekend, his attorney actually released footage showing it was finally released, but he was 76 yards behind the crash. And there was also footage that the state police had kind of worked witnesses a certain way, led to certain things. So anyways, the story that came out this weekend, it just blew my mind that it seems like in 2020, that would have been heavily covered, but just a crazy story all around. So it blew my mind it wasn't on the major news this weekend, just for the severity of something so sad that has a justice issue to it. So, and anyways, but on the appropriation side, more on the topic piece. So I'm actually going to DC next week. My company is deeply involved on the agricultural side, and was really surprised there wasn't more muscle moving this weekend on the shutdown. Just thought there'd be more movement there, but curious knowing that it seems like it's stretching out and there's a ton of wood to chop when it comes to appropriations kind of all around. Do y'all kind of have the vibe that it's going to be kind of an eternal CR type of thing moving forward? I mean, certainly it depends on 2028 elections, but we really haven't even got to the conference piece of a lot of the appropriation side. So it just doesn't seem like there's ever going to be any real movement going forward with any type of new appropriations or changes in appropriations.
Brilliant question, Sean.
Yeah, look, I was 3 years at the budget committee as a spokesman, and we used to talk about, there's a lot of chatter about biannual appropriations and the need for that. And at that time, we were very anti it. I don't know what the full answer is, but the system is broken. And yes is the answer to your question. We're going to keep kicking the can, short-term CRs, policy fights within the extensions, but it is no way to govern, and we have a problem. So it is a problem. It's like so many other things. We just keep going. Let's kick the can. Let's buy a few more months. Same thing with healthcare. Same thing with technology. We don't want to deal with the big problems. So I think it's a problem for a million reasons how we do business, because it has real implications on people's lives and the ability for us to be prepared on a million fronts, and we're not taking it head on. And I think, frankly, a lot of lawmakers just don't fully grasp that, with all due respect to them, just because they don't see the full impact that having a lapse in funding, especially at the beginning of a fiscal year. There's so much stuff that doesn't get done in October because every year we spend the first 4 weeks not doing stuff. So anyway, I think it's a great question, and it's a big problem.
Dan.
Yeah, I think there is boiling frustration in both parties about how broken the appropriations process is. And, you know, the executive branch kind of taking some of this power away from them. I'll be curious to see what happens when we get through this shutdown, because both parties are getting really, really frustrated with what is happening. But look, appropriations requires trade-offs. And that's, you know, in this environment, like agriculture is a great example. Democrats would support certain provisions in exchange for Republicans supporting food nutrition programs in urban cities. It was kind of one of the great trades that happened to grease the wheel to get stuff through. It's really hard now to go home and say, yeah, I horse traded with Democrats that, you know, have food nutrition programs in Chicago.
Yeah.
Kyle, thank you. Grateful to you. Hey, dip into Fox News for a second, please.
It's in a commercial.
Really? All right. They must have just gone. Never mind. Tom Cotton was on. You dump back out. I just want to see what Cotton was saying about the insurrection stuff, since he's got standing there. All right. Let's go to Mr. Jones. Unmute, if you would. There you go. Tell folks where you are. What's on your mind for Sean and for
He's in New York. He's in tech. In New York, in tech.
I'm not a finance bro. Sorry.
Oh,
I know, the Patagonia, the
the
vest.
vest. I swear, I thought I nailed that.
The glasses, the vest, and the dress
I know.
shirt. Yep.
I know. No, I am just north of Charlotte in North Carolina, as many of our community seems to be in North Carolina. So three things. One comment, and Sean, I just want to honor your articulation of the political violence context and perspective. I really wish for my Democrat friends that they would kind of figure out that the both sidism argument, it just doesn't pass the smell test. It just doesn't. And I wish they'd figure that out. First question for you. I've got two. So we've had this Iowa superintendent story where the guy's an illegal alien. We've got these commercial driver's license stories, tens of thousands of illegal aliens getting commercial driver's licenses and on the road. Where are the stories in the media about illegal aliens voting? Like, going to vote doesn't require anything. You show up and you vote.
Yeah.
To get a job, to get a CDL, we know what the DMV is like. I don't understand where the story is. Like, why is the story not out there that somebody's at least trying to figure out what's happening with the voting? Whether it's happening or not, I don't know. But there's no story in the media about illegal aliens voting. Like,
well, first of all, every day I think maybe we should do the whole hour on that Des Moines school superintendent, because that is an incredible story, and it's a gee whiz story. But there's also tons of accountability questions, not just for the Des Moines system, but for the places he was previously, for the search firm that recommended him. I mean, it's an incredible story. Now, Christopher, no one thinks people in the country illegally should be allowed to vote. Many Republican prosecutors at the state and local level have looked into it. I'll say something similar to what I said earlier in the program. It's
everything
possible.
in our power
It's
to help
passable.
citizens of
That's
this
Bondi.
country.
Kill that. It's possible that's happening in such vast numbers that it's impacting elections. And if it is, that would be a horrible thing. And I hope someone would uncover it. But I will tell you, there's no evidence of it that's been presented. So the reason the press isn't writing about it, besides bias, but that's not the only reason, is there's no evidence that it's happening. And you think about it just as a practical matter. If you're here in the country illegally, do you really want to vote that badly and risk being discovered? People on the right can say all they want, that this is why Democrats let people in, and that they shuttle them from the Mexican border to fake IDs and voter registration until polls. You can say it all you want, and if it's true, it shouldn't be happening. But literally, there's no evidence for it, and no one should be out there making the accusation without something we call evidence.
Well,
Sean.
and look, there's
Dan,
two parts to this, which is one, this is part of the issue with a lot of illegal immigrants. They don't walk around with a eye on their forehead for being here illegal. You don't know who they are in a lot of instances. And two, I'll just say this. we lost Latino voters. So if
the scheme is not working perfectly.
Yes, exactly. If this is our great thing, by the way, Republicans they are redistricting in Texas, right? Because they want to try to pick up House seats. Do you know where they're trying to redistrict? The Rio Grande Valley, where they think that the Latinos moving to the Republican Party
they're falling right into the Soros trap.
Are going to literally ensure they keep the House of Representatives. So if that was our plan, and by the way, it's not, it's ridiculous. But if that is our plan, that's the theory on the right, boy, did we screw this up.
I'm not trying to make the conspiracy argument that this was planned. I'm simply saying we have two cases where processes should have stopped an illegal alien from doing something. One of those cases is tens of thousands of people getting driver's license, and we all know what it's like to go to the DMV. Voting does not require any of that. It doesn't pass logical sense.
But Christopher, we know
20 million people are here. Think about the business community that hires people in all sorts of industries, right? Like, this is why the issue is so salient for so many people. There's so many people here. There's so many instances of them kind of getting through the nets of society. And you can ask yourself why, but it's such a broad spectrum of issues.
Christopher, we know why people would want driver's licenses, right? There's a reason to have that. Why would they want to vote?
Because one party's telling them we're going to kick you out, and one party's telling you we'll stay and give you a bunch of stuff.
Go ahead and find me. This is what I said to Karl Rove and others in 2020 when they said, or 2000 rather, when they said people here, Florida called for one candidate, and then they get out of the line in California. And I said, find me one person.
Okay.
Find me one person who got out of the line because a price was projected, and then I'll launch a full-scale investigation. Sean, find me someone in the country illegally.
So
find me someone in the country illegally. Find me one who voted.
Okay,
find me one. Find me one.
I will. I'll find you plenty. Hans von Spassky at Heritage has an entire list. Here's my question for you: why, let's just stick with the superintendent. So first of all, you come into this country illegally, right? And then, of course, you're not going to break any other laws because you would never want to risk getting deported. But you take an illegal handgun and carry that around when you apply to be the. I mean, so again, but that we don't.
Should we have gun control?
Then he registers to vote in Maryland. Why would he register if he wasn't? Why risk it? Why go through that?
Sean, I don't doubt that there are people in your neighborhood whose homes are being cleaned by people in the country legally either. Right. They're integrated into the economy in all sorts of ways. That's different. That's different than mass voting. It's different than mass voting.
Half the small businesses in this country would collapse. Look, like landscapers, hotels, restaurants.
Sean, everyone who votes illegally is an injustice. But unless it's being done on a mass scale, it doesn't affect the outcome.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'm super appreciative of the conversation. And Mark, you've segued us nicely to my second point.
I just said one side encourages it. This is you can argue that the plan
is Sean, show me one Democrat who encouraged people to vote illegally. Show me one.
Okay, his name is Joe Biden. He literally brought a ton of people into this country.
Didn't encourage them.
Well, it cost us the election because we lost all.
Now the answer is there are some jurisdictions that want to make it legal for people in the country legally.
DC,
but
Tacoma Park, Maryland.
Correct,
New York.
Correct, but they're going through the system and saying that should be our law. That's different than finding any Democratic official, and I'm not saying they don't exist. I'm just saying find me one who's got a secret plan to encourage people to, in violation of state or federal law, vote illegally in an election. Find me one. I'm not saying they don't exist. I'm just saying find me one.
I'll find plenty.
All right. So Dan and Sean, I think you will support me in this. My third point. I wrote Barry Weiss yesterday. I also wrote Mark. I don't know if you read it. I encourage us to start a campaign. Mark is the heir to Tim Russert's seat. He should be the Face the Nation guy. We should be advocating for him to take over that Sunday show tomorrow.
Well, do you want Meet the Press or Face the Nation? I can eat with either one.
We got to go with what's available. Barry's got charge of Face the Nation. He doesn't have Meet the Press.
Studio's on the west side. Mark's on the west side. I mean,
come on, Mark. Come on, Mark. Face the Nation, baby. Come on.
Christopher, if you make it happen, I'll check my schedule, but
I'll be your agent. I'll be
Okay.
your agent. Come on,
Okay.
baby. Let's do it.
Lead the two-way community. Whatever the community wants, I'll serve.
I could spend an entire show
if
on
asked,
Sunday
he will serve.
Barry, everyone, it's Barry Weiss is Barry at the FP.com. Barry at the FP.com.
Not anymore.
I was going to say now it's Barry _Weiss at
exactly.
CBSnews.com.
Christopher, if you can get 3,000 people to email, I'll engage. How about that?
Let's do it. Let's do it, people.
Copy
Let's do it.
Christopher on it. I'll check my schedule. Thank you for your kind words, Christopher. I appreciate it. Always wanted to host a Sunday show. Thank you.
Thank you for your attention to this
grateful
matter.
To you. Yeah, thank you for your attention to all matters. All right. It's Tuesday, right? So, Sean, what do you expect the headline to be out of the U.S.-Canada meetings? About trade or Trump embarrassing or first day of the NHL season? What do you expect the headlines to be out of the meeting?
Canada agrees to Commonwealth status.
Yeah. Dan, what do you expect?
51st state. Just
Dan, what do you expect the headline to be?
Well, I am wondering if there's going to be a deal in Israel, because the symmetry of that would be unbelievable if it happens today. With some sort of progress, some sort. I think Carney brings something, and they try to lower the temperature.
Carney did a good job, by the way. Again, he's
pre-gaming
well.
Pre-gaming
this thing. He salted it well.
He's not a knucklehead. What will the headline be out of the Bondi hearing, Dan?
Sharp partisan differences. Yeah, I mean it's
sparks fly.
Yeah, there you go. Hearing. Perfect. Yeah.
Sparks fly. Okay.
And by the way, there'll be sparks that the Democrats will point to, and sparks the Republicans because of leak and everything.
This to me though, again, how these guys handle. We talked about this. Someone had a hearing a few weeks ago. They handled it really well. They went on. Kash Patel, I think, went on offense. How did they handle a female? Right? You got a lot of people like Adam Schiff. Are they going to go over the top? I mean, the optics matter in this stuff, and that's what I think will be interesting.
Is she on TV tonight? I bet she is somewhere.
Oh, she's already booked on Hannity.
Yeah. for the full hour, as Larry King would say. Okay. We got to preview some stuff for you. Sean, what do you have tonight?
Well, we got a lot of time. I mean, you mentioned that FBI stuff. We're going to talk to Eric Trump tonight on the show, get his take on all affair that's happened with him and his family. I might get some crypto tips too. I don't really know a lot about crypto, so I'm going to ask Eric what I should buy.
He has a new book too, right? It's
Under Siege.
That's it.
All right, Dan, you got anything you want to share?
Nope. I mean, I got nothing.
Got nothing. All right.
Gentlemen yields.
Tonight at 6 p.m. Eastern time on Two Way tonight, we've a fabulous pair. I don't think they've ever been on anything together. Democratic strategist Jaime Moore, who's really one of the smartest Democratic strategists around, super smart, interesting guy. And then Isabel Brown of the Daily Wire will join us together to talk about all the day's news. I'm so looking forward to that. I can't tell you. And then on the Moynihan Report, 7 Eastern time here on Two Way, Michael, I don't believe I know who Michael's guest is. Does anyone know who Michael's guest is? Don't know. All right. Tonight, 7 o'clock, Moynihan Report, a surprise package. Join. Dropping later today. Next up, a couple things coming up on Next Up. First of all, Doug Sosnick.
Speaking of brilliant.
Dan, do you know any Democratic strategists smarter than Doug Sosnick?
Nope.
No.
All due respect to all the other.
Yeah. Here, I didn't say exactly. No one's smarter. The thing about Doug Sosnick is Bill Clinton listened to his political advice for many, many years. Still does, probably. That's how smart he is. That Bill Clinton listened to his advice. So Doug will be on with me, and then I'm going to do my reported monologue on Barry Weiss and what it means, not just for CBS, but for the media. I've had so many interesting conversations with people. We've known this was coming for a while, so I've been talking to people for a while. But it's kind of incredible how some people are dumping on this decision and saying it's a bad idea, and talking about how could you ruin CBS by hiring Barry Weiss? First of all, Barry will make CBS better, but folks, there's nothing to ruin.
That's the takeaway right there.
CBS has been liberal and lousy for a long time. So join me for my reported monologue. That'll drop later today on Next Up on YouTube and on this podcast. So stay tuned for that. And the three of us will be back in 23 hours for another edition of this program. Dan?
I was going to say, if you have, for the person who asked about appropriations, time is firm cornerstones, one of the best in town. So fire up your approach questions.
Bring your approach questions. Anyway,
Yes.
I'll see you at 6. Sean will see you at 6, and then we'll all see you tomorrow morning. Have a great day, everybody.